courtroom fell silent as the small girl entered, her trembling hand clutching the leash of a battle-scarred German shepherd. What happened next would shock the nation and change the course of justice forever. I am Rex, and this is our story. The air in the courtroom was thick with tension, each breath a visible cloud in the frigid atmosphere. My senses were on high alert, ears pricked forward, catching every whisper, every shuffle of feet. Beside me, Emily, a wisp of a girl with eyes that held oceans of unspoken fear, trembled like a leaf in a storm. Her small hand clutching my leash was the only anchor in her tempest of emotions. We were here for her, for Emily. It had been weeks since the shadows had crept into her life, stealing her voice and leaving her adrift in a sea of trauma. Before the horror, Emily had been a bright spark, a child whose laughter painted sunshine across every room. She loved stories, her collection of stuffed animals, and the sound of her mom's voice during bedtime stories. But that was before the world turned cruel, before innocence was shattered in the blink of an eye. I remember the day the light went out in her eyes as if it were etched into my very bones. I wasn't there, not then, but the story had been whispered in hushed tones, a cautionary tale that sent shivers down spines. Emily had been playing in her yard, her pink dress swirling around her like a summer breeze. Her mother, Sarah, had stepped inside for a moment, a mere heartbeat in time. But that was all it took. When Sarah returned, a black van idled menacingly near the curb. A man, his smile a grotesque mask of false kindness, was trying to lure Emily with honeyed words and empty promises. Martha Jenkins, a neighbor and guardian angel in disguise, saw everything unfold from her kitchen window. Her shout, sharp and unwavering, pierced the air like a gunshot. The predator, startled by the unexpected interruption, hesitated for a crucial second. Emily, seizing the fleeting chance, had run back to her mother's arms, but the damage was done. The van screeched away, leaving behind tire marks on the asphalt and the indelible mark of terror on a little girl's soul. I joined Emily's life soon after. A discarded warrior offered a second chance at purpose. My own past was etched in scars, a testament to battles fought and sacrifices made in the line of duty. I had been a canine officer, a protector, a shield against the darkness that lurked in the shadows of society, a deep gash across my side, a legacy of a daring rescue that had saved a child's life, had ended my career prematurely. Deemed unfit for further service, I was set to be euthanized, another casualty in the endless war against crime. But fate had other plans. Dr. Laura Bennett, a beacon of compassion in a world often devoid of it, saw something in me that others had missed, a spark that refused to be extinguished, a will to serve that ran deeper than any physical wound. She fought for me, arguing passionately that my experience and training could still be put to good use. And so instead of a cold table and a final injection, I found myself at Dr. Bennett's Rehabilitation Center, learning to heal both my body and my spirit. It was there that I found a new purpose, healing hearts. And then, like a whisper of destiny, Emily arrived. Her eyes, once brimming with laughter and innocence, were now haunted by shadows too dark for any child to bear. She wouldn't speak, wouldn't play, wouldn't even acknowledge the world around her. Her parents, Sarah and David, were desperate, their love a fragile shield against the crushing weight of her silence. Our first meeting was tentative, a silent dance of cautious curiosity and budding trust. Emily stood behind her mother, peering at me with eyes that had seen too much. I remained still, a gentle giant offering silent support and understanding. Slowly, hesitantly, she reached out, her tiny fingers brushing against my fur. In that moment, a connection was forged, a lifeline thrown across the abyss of her trauma. In the weeks that followed, we became inseparable. I was her shadow, her confidant, her silent guardian against the monsters that haunted her dreams. She would sit beside me for hours, her small hands tracing the map of my scars, as if understanding the battles I had fought and drawing strength from my resilience. When nightmares clawed at her in the dead of night, it was the steady rhythm of my heartbeat that calmed her racing pulse and chased away the darkness. One afternoon, as the golden light of sunset painted the world in warm hues, a miracle occurred. Emily, watching me perform a simple trick we had been practicing, spoke. A single word, barely a whisper, but a word nonetheless. "Good boy," she had murmured, her eyes wide with wonder at her own voice. It was a start, a crack in the wall of silence that had imprisoned her. And now we were here, in this sterile courtroom facing the monster who had stolen her voice and nearly stolen her future. Richard Hale, a man with a deceptively ordinary face that belied the evil lurking beneath, sat at the defense table. His eyes were cold and devoid of remorse, his posture relaxed as if he were waiting for a bus rather than facing charges that could put him away for life. He seemed unfazed by the gravity of the situation, confident that Emily's silence would be his shield against justice. As Emily and Sarah settled into their seats, I remained vigilant. The room was filled with spectators, their whispers a constant undercurrent of tension. But my focus never wavered from my charge, my ears attuned to her every breath, every subtle shift in her posture. Judge Mark Sullivan, a man with a reputation for unwavering justice and a keen eye for truth, observed Emily with a discerning gaze. He knew the weight of the case rested on her fragile shoulders, on her ability to find her voice and speak her truth. But Emily remained silent, her gaze fixed on the floor, as if she could disappear into its polished surface. Then it happened. As Emily sat beside her mother, her eyes darted up for a split second, landing on Hale. Her fingers almost imperceptibly twitched against my fur. It was a signal, one she had learned in therapy, a desperate plea for help that only two beings in the room recognized, me and, to my surprise, Judge Sullivan. My body went rigid, every muscle coiled and ready to spring into action. A primal growl rumbled in my chest, a sound of warning, of recognition, of barely contained fury. My eyes locked onto Hale, unwavering and piercing, seeing past his carefully constructed facade to the predator beneath. The air crackled with tension, thick enough to cut with a knife. A murmur swept through the courtroom, whispers of speculation and unease rippling through the gathered crowd. Judge Sullivan, sensing the shift in energy, slammed his gavel, the sharp crack echoing like a gunshot. "This court will take a 15-minute recess," he announced, his voice brooking no argument. Something significant had just occurred, and he needed to understand it. As we filed out of the courtroom, Emily clung to me, her small body trembling like a leaf in a storm. I pressed close to her side, a living shield against the world. In the hallway, Jack Monroe, the lead investigator on the case, approached Judge Sullivan. Their voices were low, urgent, but my keen ears caught every word. "That dog recognized him," Monroe stated, his eyes conveying volumes of unspoken thoughts. "I'd bet my badge on it. We've seen it before in other cases. Animals can sense things we can't." Sullivan nodded, his brow furrowed in deep thought. "It's more than that," he murmured. "Did you see the girl's hand? That twitch wasn't random. It was a signal." Meanwhile, in a small room down the hall, Hale's facade was crumbling. His lawyer, a sharp-suited man with eyes like a shark, was speaking in rapid, hushed tones. "What the hell was that about?" he demanded. "You said the girl wouldn't talk. You said there was no evidence." Hale's face had gone ashen, beads of sweat forming on his upper lip. "I don't know," he stammered. "It's just a dog. Doesn't mean anything." But we both knew the truth. My reaction had betrayed him, had shone a spotlight on the darkness he had tried so hard to hide. As the recess ended and we filed back into the courtroom, the atmosphere had shifted. There was a charge in the air, a sense of anticipation that hadn't been there before. Judge Sullivan returned to the bench, his eyes gleaming with determination. He didn't believe in coincidences, and what he had witnessed was far too significant to ignore. "Your Honor," the prosecutor began, rising to her feet, "in light of new developments, we'd like to request a brief adjournment to pursue additional lines of inquiry." Sullivan nodded, his gaze sweeping the courtroom before landing on Hale. "Granted," he said, his voice carrying the weight of mountains. "This court will reconvene in 48 hours. And Mr. Hale, I suggest you use this time wisely. The truth has a way of coming to light, one way or another." From that moment, the tide began to turn. The investigation intensified, focusing on Hale's past, his connections, his movements in the days and weeks surrounding Emily's near abduction. Every stone was turned, every shadow illuminated, and with each passing hour the evidence mounted, each piece falling into place with chilling precision. When we returned to the courtroom 2 days later, the change was palpable. Hale's confident smirk had been replaced by a look of barely concealed panic. His lawyer's arguments, once smooth and assured, now rang hollow in the face of damning evidence. As the final witness stepped down, Judge Sullivan turned to Emily. His voice was gentle, understanding. "Emily," he said, "I know this has been very difficult for you, but if there's anything you want to say, anything at all, now is the time." The courtroom held its breath. For a long moment, silence reigned. Then, slowly, Emily stood. Her hand never left my fur, drawing strength from our connection. And then, in a voice that started as a whisper but grew stronger with each word, she began to speak. She told of the day in the yard, of the man with the kind smile and cruel eyes. She spoke of her fear, of the nightmares that had plagued her since, and finally she pointed at Hale, her voice unwavering. "That's him," she said. "He's the bad man." In the end, it was my unwavering loyalty, my primal recognition, combined with Emily's courageous testimony that broke the dam. Faced with irrefutable proof and a victim who had found her voice, Hale's defense crumbled like a house of cards. The jury took less than 2 hours to return a guilty verdict on all counts. As the judge pronounced the sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole, the courtroom erupted in cheers. A collective sigh of relief washed over the room. Years of fear and uncertainty finally laid to rest. But for me, the real victory was in Emily's eyes. The shadows that had haunted them for so long were receding, replaced by a glimmer of hope, of healing. As we left the courthouse hand in paw, Emily looked up at me. Her smile, small but genuine, was like the first ray of sunshine after a long, dark night. She didn't need to speak. I understood. We had faced the darkness together, had stared down evil itself, and we had emerged victorious. Our journey was far from over. There would be more challenges to face, more healing to be done. But as we stepped out into the sunlight, I knew that whatever came next, we would face it together. For in each other we had found not just companionship, but a bond that transcended words, a love that could weather any storm. I am Rex, and this is our story, a tale of courage, of loyalty, and of the unbreakable bond between a girl and her dog. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the most powerful voice is the one that speaks without words.